Hey, all you cool cats and kittens, welcome to April 6th. I promise I'm done with the Joe Exotic jokes now because I know they're your middle schoolers and they're getting old. Turner's so not funny. Anyway, we need to go ahead and download three things today. Make sure you're stopping this video and getting it all. I'm trying my best to organize, but I'm kind of riding the struggle bus. Once you get into Google Classroom, which is here, there's three things you're going to need. You're going to need the early Civil War class notes, the early Civil War study guide, and the early Civil War lecture guide. This is what you're using during the video, the lecture guide, not the notes, the lecture guide. So you're going to go ahead and download all of these, but this is what you're going to use during this video. So again, three things that you need to download: the lecture guide, the study guide, and the class notes. Class notes will look something like this. You can go ahead and save those to your hard drive. I use a Mac computer because they work. All right. So we're going to go ahead and get started. If you need to get caught up, make sure you're hitting the pause button as we go through this. All right. April 6th, 2020. Tale of the tape. All right. The Civil War is far and away the most complex war that we study. It is incredibly complex, but yet it still comes down to the same three things that every war comes down to: supplies, supplies, supplies. And in this, nothing is more evident than in the Civil War. Supplies, supplies, supplies. Now, once again, you have that lecture guide out and you're following along with us. It should look very similar to something like this. All right, the North versus the South. During the war, the North, what they wanted at the beginning, before ending the slavery question, was to restore the Union. They wanted to put the country back together. They had a lot of strengths, and they had so many strengths that there's absolutely positively no reason why this war lasted as long as it did, and why they didn't win it going away. They had a larger population, they had greater resources, and they had factories. Factories that could build supplies, they could manufacture food, they could manufacture ammunition, and they had the railroad system. And railroads are incredibly important because you're moving things from point A to point B. The South did have its advantages. Their goal, their objective, or their goal was to become a sovereign nation. They wanted to be an independent nation. They had incredibly strong military leaders, mainly Robert E. Lee and Stonewall Jackson, and the real war history nerds love those guys. You see some people geek out on some Robert E. Lee. They also had home field advantage. We've talked about that as well. They relied too much on cotton, and I know especially first period we talked about diversifying assets. They did not diversify assets. They had all of their money and all of their wealth wrapped up in one thing, and that was cotton. Some weapons of the war. I took a trip to Gettysburg, and I really had some nerd moments there. You're still talking about one-shot rifles here at the bottom right. They one shot, and that's all you had. You had to reload again, just like during the Revolutionary War. The bullets were much more destructive than they were during the Revolutionary War, but you did have the revolver, so you did have the 6-shot revolver, so we are starting to move into more rapid fire, and that'll become evident here in a minute. Well, next week. All right, you understand the Anaconda Plan, and again, you're pausing and you're filling out the things. The Anaconda Plan gets its name from a type of snake that squeezes its prey to death. It's designed by Winfield Scott, and it was the most brilliant war plan ever put together. Number one, you're going to blockade southern ports. I'm going to show you a map here in a second. Number two, gain control of the Mississippi River. Number three, take Richmond. It's that simple. Blockades, take control of the Mississippi River, take Richmond. All right, and I'm going to pull this map out and move back here so you can see it. Number one, Supplies, supplies, supplies. The team or the side that controls the supplies controls the war. If you blockade the South, you take your ships and you put your ships all along the South here, no supplies can get in, especially from the Caribbean islands where they were hiding supplies, the South was. So, number one, blockade. Number two, take control of the Mississippi River. This cuts the South in two. Most people think they cut the South in two. You have to go like this. Watch. If you take control of the Mississippi River, you cut the supplies moving from west to east. And this is incredibly important. And it all boils down to one supply in the end, which is food. People need food to survive. So once again, blockade here, take control of the Mississippi River here, and number three, take Richmond. Now, the South, they have their own battle plan, and I used to make fun of this battle plan quite a bit. It's actually the exact same as George Washington's battle plan during the Revolutionary War. Number one, hold as much territory as possible. Number two, hope the North gets sick of the war and just quits. That's what Great Britain did, and George Washington ran that plan to a T. And number three, win support of the British and the French. They're selling cotton to the British because the British manufacture all these clothes and cotton goods, and they're hoping to get them on their side. That doesn't end up happening because we'll talk about that later. All right, so in the end, 85% of these battles that are really, really important take place between these two cities. Richmond here, and you can see Washington, D.C., which is here. So all of our battles, they take place in this tiny area between Richmond and D.C. It's about 120 miles. Not all of our battles, but a lot of important battles take place there. Whichever team takes the other one's capital is going to win. If the South comes up and takes Maryland, they win, Washington, D.C. If the North takes Richmond, they win. So that's the name of the game. Again, go ahead and get your notes done. 2 assignments today. That's it for today. You have 2 assignments. Number 1, the lecture notes, which you're working on right now as we speak. And number 2, you're working on your study guide. You have a quiz on Wednesday. That's really it. Y'all have a great week. Be safe. Don't go outside. Well, go outside. Just don't come within 6 feet of people.